Good. All right. So this is Lil Rhody Sports Talk. This is the
401.
the podcast number one. We're going to start off with some weekly podcast with your daily sports and weekly sports or predictions, trades, all that stuff. Obviously, you guys know me. This is Aaron Cicilline. And we got my pal over here, Joshua Moran, a.k.a. Jamarcus Russell.
That's right.
And
biggest bust ever.
Yes. So the first week we're going to talk about, if you guys follow me on Facebook or whatever social media you guys see, I talk about the Celtics all the time. So we're going to talk about Brad Stevens, rotational stuff, all Celtic stuff first. Then we're going to move on to NBA standings, trade predictions, and go from there. But the first thing we're going to talk about is the Celtics. Josh, if you want to start off about your comments on the Celtics. I mean, you've watched them just like I've watched them.
I've watched almost every game, and man, it's been a doozy.
It's been a grand time watching Brad Stevens trying to figure out what bum to play off the bench.
Yeah, it's not pretty. Bench scoring is definitely ranking in the bottom of the league, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's funny, too, because in previous years, that was one of our strengths. And I remember complaining, saying, well, I wish we had one or two less guys who could score off the bench so we could get the Jays more opportunities. And now it came back to bite us in the ass.
I think like when I watch the Celtics, I see two organizational issues. I see it's like a top-down snowball. I don't think Danny Ainge fixed his team correctly. I do enjoy the signings of Tristan Thompson. I thought Jeff Teague was going to be a serviceable bench piece or starter from on Kemba's knee injury, but you can tell Jeff Teague doesn't fit this team. He's just not playing up to what Jeff Teague's name is.
Not at all.
Like I said, I do enjoy Tristan Thompson, but when you're trying to replace Gordon Hayward with Tristan Thompson, you're not gonna get what you want. And I know that they drafted Aaron Nesmith 14th and Nesmith 20, I think it was 26th. Nesmith has been a big surprise.
You mean for 26th?
Yeah. Whatever it was. But I think that the past couple of games I'm not on the team. The Celtics have figured out that what kind of their rotation is, but I think that the one thing that kills them is that they replaced a forward who was a two-way forward, with another center, and I think that's what's
wasn't enough
hurting.
To supplement.
Yeah, I think that's what's hurting them is Brad Stevens can't figure out. He's obsessed with this two-center lineup because they roll with Kemba, Jalen, Tatum, Thompson, and Tice. Now I don't mind Tice starting, but I think there are certain games, I guess, when you face the Pacers. The Pacers start Miles Turner and Sabonis. I understand you starting two centers. That makes sense.
Absolutely.
But there's some games you're facing Philadelphia. You only need one center out there on Embiid, but you have Tatum or Brown that you can use against a Ben Simmons. There's another, and then the other vice versa can guard Tobias Harris.
Right.
So I think that Brad Stevens needs to start looking at situational. I don't think the two center lineups necessary every night. I think if you can surround the Jays with more offense, outside shooting preferably, then I think the Celtics are going to go back to what we used to see, the striving of.
So let me ask you this then. So ideally, when Smart comes back, who is your starting lineup? Do you want to keep him in the starting lineup, or do you want to have him off the bench?
I would pick
help the bench.
These were the two lineups. If I were Brad Stevens, I would go with these two lineups. If you're facing a lengthy team where you need to start the two centers, I would roll with Kemba, Brown, Tatum, Thompson, and Tice.
Right.
I would keep that same five.
Because like you said, Indiana, you mentioned Sabonis and Turner. I bet you they combined for 28 rebounds a night together. I know Sabonis is at 11. Miles Turner, what is he, around 6 or 7?
Yeah. I think when fully healthy, I would roll with Kemba Walker, Marcus Smart, Jalen Brown, Tatum, and Robert Williams. I think that's the best.
I like
five.
That a lot too.
Plus minus, Robert Williams, I think, is one of the best on the team. When he's gotten, I think, 15 plus minutes, they have an insane positive record, an insane plus minus ratio when he's on the floor.
Absolutely, they do.
And I think that the ability of having 4 shooters out there or 4 guys who can't shoot, and then adding an insane athlete who can catch any alley oop or get offensive rebounds for the 4 shooters. I
And
think it
protect
adds
the rim too pretty well.
yeah, and if it weren't for Robert Williams, I would probably pick Thompson because I think that if you put Tice out there, it's cool because you could play 5 out, but at the same time, I
We
think you
learned in
do
the playoffs last year he can't be our starting center. He's going to get
yeah.
eaten alive by
I'm
Bam.
I'm okay with Tristan
Embiid.
Thompson getting those starting minutes because Tristan Thompson has the championship pedigree when he played with the Cavaliers, and he's shown that he's capable of giving you 10 and 10 every night, and
Yeah,
he's a very vocal guy, and I think that's when you play with a young team and guys like Kemba Walker, was so used to being a leader on a young team but a bad team. I think that the voice sometimes doesn't come out.
right. Yeah,
And I
no.
think Tristan Thompson, I know he's not, I know he's a role player, but I think he's one of those guys like Marcus Smart who likes the fire in your ass. And I
Yeah,
think
I
it's
agree.
necessary.
Yeah, because you
So
look at Kemba too, and like, I don't know how he is in the locker room, but on the court he seems pretty quiet, like not as
he's a
vocal as
smiley
someone like
guy.
Smart. Yeah, he's
He's,
very friendly.
he's very positive, and I think that's what rubs off Celtics fans, especially me, because it's like so far this year when we're making this first podcast, we're looking at the Celtics at 17 and 17. And I
Yeah.
think that when he came back and he struggled for those first like 7 to 8 games, he just didn't shoot well. He was on a minute restriction, so he couldn't like shoot into a rhythm if he wanted to fix himself. He was getting frustrated, and I think he was frustrating the team because he was still playing 20 minutes but getting 15 shots. And
Right. Yeah.
I think that's what was hurting him because they were
Very
trying to
high
force
volume
him.
at
Yeah.
that time. He is going
But
up though. I remember when he first came back, his stats, I don't know through whatever games, but they had to be like 15 points to the first 10 games he was back. And now he's at 18 in like the
yeah,
last 8. Well, 18 overall. So in the last 8, he's probably averaging like over 20.
and that's what Josh and I both know this, that when we speak to the people about the Celtics, we both know that Kemba Walker is not this insanely good field goal percentage guy. We know it. He's not. We're not expecting him to come back and shoot 55%. We're expecting him, but we're looking for reason. If he shot a splits between 44% and 38%, that's acceptable. That's max money guy if he's going to get the volume of 15 plus shots. If he's going
Especially
to provide,
yeah, and especially in Charlotte too, when he averaged almost 26 points per game, he shot like I want to say 43%, right around there,
he
which is
was
pretty
shooting in the
efficient for a
40%.
small point guard. Like
Yeah,
that's what you
and
want on that
and
volume.
that's why I think that the fit is so many. It's like questionable because I think the Celtics want to use him as a shooter, but with Brad Stevens' offense, it's always been point guard centered, and I think that's why I get so mad at watching Brad Stevens screw around with the rotations because it bothers me to see how he puts out the guys. He doesn't set Tatum up properly. He doesn't set up Brown properly. And I understand that
No,
they
not
force
at
it out.
all.
But there's sometimes I turn on the game in the second quarter, and I see a lineup of Jason Tatum, Jeff Teague, Robert Williams, Grant Williams, and like Semi Ojeleye. And I'm like, how can you put those 4 guys out there? Now I like Robert Williams. I'm okay. That's a great duo between him and Tatum. You can roll with that and service for a serviceable 5 minutes. But Semi Ojeleye doesn't do much for you. I know he's having a good year this year, but nobody's really
Yeah,
scared
a
of
good year
Ojeleye.
compared to his previous 3 points per game for
Jeff Teague is still getting minutes on this team for some reason. He should have been cut 3 weeks ago. There should be no more 4th and 5th chances for a guy like that.
No.
Um,
Former All-Star. Come on, we need better.
yeah,
And
and
he's not even that old. What is he, like 32?
If I were Brad Stevens, I would roll with this simple 10-man rotation. When everybody's healthy, this should be the rotation. And I'm gonna include Romeo Langford in this because he hasn't been around.
Pick. We want to see him play.
Exactly.
We
So
want to see what he's capable of.
for availability purposes, I want to see a Kemba, Smart, Brown, Tatum, Robert Williams starting lineup. And then I want to see Pritchard, Nesmith, Langford, Thompson, Tice off the bench. And here's the thing, you can sprinkle in that 11th guy, whether that is Semi or whether that is Grant Williams. One of those guys can be those spark plugs.
Let me ask you this then. If you were to have the Celtics make an accusation, acquire someone before the trade deadline, who would you want them to go after?
I would go for Harrison Barnes.
That would be a nice pickup.
Because he could be your forward that you can start over Smart and put Smart back in the 6-man role where I think he belongs. But with the depth of this team, you need to start Marcus Smart. And I don't think he deserves to be out of the lineup. even though I said before I would roll with a Kemba Brown, Tatum,
Right.
Thompson type
Depending
lineup
on the
against a
lineup.
bigger
Right.
team,
Right.
yeah, I'm okay with that. But
The opposing lineup
I
is what I meant to
I
say.
like it's such a 50-50 split because I enjoy sometimes Marcus Smart when he's more of a playmaker mindset and he's setting up Kemba, Brown, and
Yeah,
Tatum.
he
He
throws
knows
dimes too. He's actually
he
like
gets his assists.
he does. Like he sees the floor naturally. Like it's not forced assists either, which I appreciate.
Yeah. And that's why I think like now looking at these teams, I think if you can start getting health and a set lineup back in, I think that allows, which is the next topic I want to talk about. We already touched on Kemba a little bit, but to touch more on Kemba, I think like going back to what we were saying, what I was saying, the first couple games he came back, he just didn't look right. Like he looked like he was so rusty that he was trying to shoot his
Right.
way out. And instead of finding something else, instead of finding a playmaking role, a defensive role, I think he just was like, I'm going to shoot out of this. I'm going to shoot out of this. He kept going with the same,
He was forcing, yeah, for sure.
yeah, he kept going with the same like momentum. And I'm okay with that because at the end of the day now, if this makes a team better, if it gets the rust off faster for him, it works. But unfortunately, it took him like 10 games. And those 10 games, unfortunately, I think we lost like 7 of those 10 games when he came back. And that put
Yeah,
us at like
wasn't
I
pretty.
think there were 8-4 or something when he started, and that pushed us under almost 500 around that
We were
time.
under 500.
Yeah,
We were
now we're
15,
stuck at
17. And you know
now we're
what?
stuck at
Honestly, we should be 16 and 18 because last game against the Wizards, if Bradley Beal didn't shit himself in those last two plays when he slid and then he just caught the ball and just stood there like a deer in headlights, we would have lost that game too.
I watching that game. I swear my soul, I think that shot was going in. Even Bradley Beal was double teamed and
Yeah, it was like a nice rainbow
he
arc.
threw an overhand shot and it still looked money. Like the dude is so good, it's unbelievable that it still thought that was going in. Like that's just
Yeah.
how the season was going. I was like, this is gonna go in.
Yeah,
Like
what did he put up on the Celtics? Like 50?
I think he
Almost.
put up 43 or 44 points or something like that.
I didn't even
And
check the box score. I just knew he was around there.
that's where I think the Celtics right now. I do agree. I've had a bunch of comments saying that we need away from Marcus Smart, Marcus Smart, Marcus Smart. We faced a bunch of good guards during this time, like a bunch of recent losses. I'm looking at it right now. We faced the Pelicans, who have two good forwards, but Marcus Smart would be playing some defense in Zion or playing some defense in Ingram. We lost against the Hawks. Trae Young, Marcus Smart's matching up with
Right.
him. Um, same thing. We lost to the Wizards the first time.
But then there's
A
just some
couple weeks ago.
inexcusable losses, like close losses,
Yeah, we shouldn't
especially
have
to the
lost.
Pistons.
We shouldn't have lost to the Pistons, Wizards
Twice.
too. Even without them, we lost to the Kings. The Lakers
Kings
game we
are a
lost by
weird team too,
one.
because I feel like they're underachievers. But they're just like I don't know what's with the Kings. They just have too many problems.
Yeah. So I think a healthy team is going to benefit Kemba the most
I think so
because
too.
Kemba Walker has never been a pure point guard. He's been the
No,
role of point guard because of what his
his
size is.
limitations. Yeah,
He's
size
6 feet
limitations.
tall. He's skinny. He's got massive shoulders, but nothing else. He's very, he's in shape, but
Yeah.
he's not like a tough guy. He's not.
No,
He's
he's
gonna
only
take
like
charges.
5'11". He's
Yeah,
not gonna do much. I mean,
and
he's like
then
good at reading passing lanes though, at least.
yeah, and then the last thing I want to touch on is the Jays. I think obviously Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum have breakout years. I mean, we saw this from last year from Jason. We both know that Jason Tatum is going to be a top tier player. We saw it since his rookie year when he was taking LeBron to Game 7 Eastern Conference Finals. He was the main guy on that team as a rookie.
As a Celtics fan too, I gotta say this. That was the most in the last, since we got Jason Tatum, him and Jalen Brown playing together. That was the most exciting time
Yeah,
as a Celtics fan.
it was fun because it gave at that time you could tell that the raw talent of Jalen Brown. Like I hate when people say this. They're like, "Oh, Jalen Brown was the third pick," but he was the third pick. But the knowing is, you pick a guy like that at the Celtics pick because you know that they had a good team. You got that third pick because of a trade, so you would take that guy in because this guy can be a future stud if you properly train him, if you properly get him in the
Right.
gym and put him around good players. He's going to take those things and get better. And each year, Jalen Brown went from a bench bum to a starter in the playoffs his rookie year. And then the second year, he was a starter, like pure starter, never got off the bench. And I know
Right.
Gordon Hayward is hurt and stuff, but he was still starting regardless.
Yeah, because
So
that game that Hayward got hurt. I think Brown like played as a starting shooting guard and he dropped like 25 that night against the Cavs. And then
Yeah,
Kyrie
so
hit the game winner.
it was, you could tell that Jalen Brown was that guy. He had that two-way physique to him. He was fast. He was athletic. His only
Dumping
problem was
on
shooting.
everyone.
His only problem was shooting. But look at the past 2 years, 2 seasons, this year and last year. He's shown that you can't step back off him. He's going to pull up on you in many different ways.
Funny too, because although his free throw shooting's not elite, I think he shoots somewhere in the 70s in first free throws. This year
Yeah,
it might be a little higher. This year it's 78 actually.
it's
And
I'm
his
not.
3-point percentage like has already like always been kind of like pretty consistently in the high 30s, like 38, 37, which is
And
impressive.
that's what's scary because, and now don't take me wrong for the people who watch this. I'm not saying he's LeBron, but it's similar to LeBron. Like when you watch the Lakers, he's such a good 3-point shooter now. He's in the 40%. But it's funny
Right.
when it comes to the free throw line, that's the one thing that's still struggling in his game. Like his offensive game is so complete that for the one thing that you would think that in his offense that shouldn't be a problem is free throws. So
Yeah, it's not elite at all.
Jalen Brown's approaching that where he's good in every asset of in the half court set, where he can shoot the ball from three, hit a mid range, post up, finish, dunk. He does it all. But when it comes to free throws, for some reason, he can't do it. And that's what's funny about Tatum, because Tatum's the opposite. Tatum is like the half court king. He likes to slow it down. He likes to do his side steps. He likes to do posting up.
Yeah, he loves his mid ranges.
He likes those type of things, which works because when you have those two different dynamics of players, and now that they've become better playmakers this year, it's fun to watch because they're like yin and yang. They work because
Do absolutely.
when Tatum wants to be the shooter and the guy who does like the flashy stuff, and Jalen Brown wants to be the defensive guy slash the run the floor and go right at you like north and south, where Tatum wants to be east and west. It
Right.
kind of works because they're never in each other's way. So
Right.
when they work well together, and I think that's where
They can both excel in either or, I think. Like I think Tatum can excel in the fast
definitely.
break, and I think Brown can excel in a slower set offense as well.
Definitely. And if I were to pick one thing for each of them to fix, I think it was last week when Mike Gorman, the Celtics announcer, was talking about in his like opinion, he thinks that the Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown are ball stopper guys. So basically, for people who don't know, Mike Gorman thinks that they're ball hogs. Now,
Right.
I do agree with that 25%
Oh,
because
they obviously dominate the offense. There's no
they shoot a lot. They shoot a lot. They're the main
they
two
take
guys
the
in their
most
offense.
shots.
That's their 1A and 1B in this offense. They're going to get the most
Right.
field goal attempts every game. Kemba Walker will have his times where he shoots the most, but sometimes he gets so hot you need to give it to him. But I 25% agree with him, and I'm not a professional. Mike Gorman's been around the Celtics forever. But my opinion is, since Danny Ainge did not provide the third like playmaking guy on this team, I don't think that it's fair to say that this year, especially in a COVID season where Tatum has complained about breathing, and then Brown, I'm pretty sure Brown had it as well in the offseason. That's no excuse, but they said that they've had their issues with breathing and offseason issues with all that.
Right.
So it's tough when you lose a guy like Hayward, who was a big playmaker for them, getting him 5 assists a game. And when you take that away from him, obviously there's more shots now for Brown and Tatum, but they had to take a bigger arsenal of the playmaking offense, which they have. I think Tatum's getting 5 assists a game, and I think Brown's getting 4. So I know it's not big
No,
numbers.
they're both getting 4.
Yeah, but they're forwards. They're not supposed to be LeBron, where he's got the ball in his hands at all times. They're not supposed to be Luka, where they get 10 assists a game. And that's just me. I think that
so let
Mike
me ask
Gorman
you
saying
this.
they're ball stoppers.
With everything being said, let's say this year we get bounced out in the second round, hypothetically, things don't go well, or even the first round. Who goes on the hot seat right away? Kemba, Brad Stevens, or one of the Jays going on the block?
I would pick,
or Danny Ainge too, for that matter.
I was gonna say I would pick option D. I would pick Danny Ainge because I hate Brad Stevens. I'm sorry. I'm not a Brad Stevens believer. I was one of those.
Throw you could even say both Ainge and Stevens both get put on the chopping block.
The thing is with Ainge is it's annoying to watch how Ainge built this team this year because a lot of Celtics fans are going to say, oh, well, he could have traded Hayward. But realistically, I was in the same boat. I was saying the same thing. But looking at it now and
The
being
cash
mature about
value wasn't really there anyways.
not even the value, couldn't because he was an unrestricted free agent who
Right,
decided
yeah.
to
He
opt
was going to
in.
do what he wanted to do.
He needed to opt into a Celtics deal for him to get traded. And since the Celtics gave him I think the rumored was 4 for 100. And then
Right.
the Hornets came out and gave him 4 for 120, all guaranteed. And you know he's going to take that fourth-year player option. It's like $36 million, and he's going to be 35 or something.
Yeah,
So
you can't blame him on that either.
he's going to do that. I think he's from North Carolina, that area, regardless.
No, he's
so
from Indiana.
so yeah. I mean,
That's why I wanted to go to the Pacers.
money talks. Then
Yeah,
money talks.
Money definitely talks.
I can see why, and that's
And
what I'm saying.
he wanted more shots too. Like he wanted to be a bigger role of the offense. So
I
who knows?
agree
Maybe
with
he just didn't like playing with the Jays either. Maybe he thought they were too ball dominant.
Yeah, I think too. Like, it's simple for me. It's like we were talking about when we first started this podcast. Ainge didn't give the complete roster to Brad.
Not at all.
And I can't fault Brad for that because Brad is trying to screw around with rotations and stuff. But the thing with me is by 34 games in the season now, we're looking at this, you do not have a set rotation yet. And the thing is, I know Smart's been hurt. I know Tatum missed some time.
Yeah, they've definitely had their problems.
But I think now with like bench pieces, you got to know who to play. And
I agree.
It was frustrating the other day. Just for example, Aaron Nesmith, if you don't watch Celtics consistently, has finally given them lottery pick minutes where he's come off the bench. He's given them 20 minutes a game. He hasn't been scoring great. Like, he was supposed to come in and beat his
He's
three.
playing very hard though.
Yeah, he's get rebounds. He's playing great defense. He was
Probably
hitting his
wants to be there.
threes. Yeah, like if you go look at his stats now, they're not pretty because
No.
he was struggling to start the year.
Is he even averaging like 3 points per game?
I think it's probably a couple points, but
maybe like 5 at best.
He had a nice strand of 10 games, even when
He's
they
averaging
weren't.
4.2 points per game right now in 18
Yes. So it's nothing pretty, but his last 10 games he's been better. He's probably been close to 6 points per game. He's been getting more rebounds. But the thing is, the other day for some reason he's at DMP. I don't understand Brad Stevens' logic.
That's crazy to me.
I know they still ended up beating the Wizards. They barely beat them. But in a game where Jalen Brown was out because of the knee injury, you would think a backup shooting guard would get some more minutes. But instead, Javonte Green, who almost didn't have his contract guaranteed the other day, and Grant Williams, who hasn't seen a court in a month, gets 30 total minutes. So
I know, it's crazy.
It astounds me that Brad Stevens, who's praised for this Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown progression rate, and Isaiah Thomas and all that stuff, crazy.
Grant Williams is doing well at shooting threes though this year. I will give him that. He's been pretty consistent. Not as of lately. As of lately, I feel like he's been missing more. I don't know the specific stats for it, but just from the eye test, I feel like he hasn't been consistent.
I think it's they relied too much on the kids for the bench, and I think Danny Ainge put so much he put a lot of motivation in them by not retaining Gordon Hayward this offseason. I think he wanted to see if I think he wanted to see if Grant Williams and Robert Williams and Semi Ojeleye and guys like that could step up into a higher role.
I think time's proven now that they just can't. They're not capable of it.
Yeah, I'm okay with keeping Semi around. I think
maybe Robert Williams.
Robert Williams, I think, is their future center.
Probably.
I know he's nothing special, but I think with how this team is going and how they treat centers,
offense to his game.
With how they've kept centers, they've just wanted either a veteran or a guy who could shoot. And they've had both of those the past couple years. They had Aaron Baines, who was your traditional hit 1-3 a game guy, play aggressive defense. And then you had Horford.
Though. When Baines would hit a 3, everybody would go wild.
Yeah, I miss those. I miss those teams because it was fun to watch. There was nothing toxic. They weren't losing games. I think now, like, as much as I love Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown, you can tell they're part of the generation of whiny NBA players.
Yeah, they're a little
They don't play.
arrogant. They want their calls.
Yeah, they when they don't get a foul call, when it's clearly not a foul call, they don't get back on defense,
No,
and then
they go
Brad has
straight
to
to
use
the ref.
out.
Yeah.
It's bad. The
That's where
Celtics
Brad
are just
Stevens needs to step up more. I mean, obviously, it's grown men. It's a grown man league, so it's harder
yeah,
to control players. But it would be nice to have a little more for him to take, like, be a little bit more disciplined.
yeah. But I think we've hit on all the points of the Celtics. I think they're gonna
Yeah,
get
I will
better.
say this about the Celtics though. In the next 20 games, especially when Smart comes back after All-Star break, right? That's when he's coming back.
Yes.
So if they don't start showing that they're going in the right direction, and then they just finish the year on a bad note, then we could talk more about like what further actions need to be taken. But we just want to see like some improvement from here on out. I will say that.
Yeah. This is like the year where during COVID you can see a lot of teams have gotten better. Obviously, Philadelphia. I mean, this is gonna be our next topic. We're gonna talk about
Yeah.
NBA
For a
standings.
transition, yeah, like we talk
We're going
about.
to transition over to the rest of the NBA. There's been a bunch of surprise teams this year, bad and good.
Knicks in fourth place, man. Wow. The New
Just
York
to name
Knicks.
three teams off the top of my head, I would say Philadelphia. I don't think it's not a surprise, but Philadelphia looks fine. Like this is the first year as me, I hate Philadelphia. I'm actually enjoying watching them because they got a former coach that I love, Doc Rivers, and they got a former Seth Curry, former Duke player
Danny Green
that I
too.
love. So and Danny Green, they finally have produced the role players that everybody in the league has been asking for Philadelphia to get. They finally went out and did it. They got a
Yeah, they
better
finally
coach.
replaced JJ Redick. He was kind of like he would like having a good 3-point shooter on that team is what makes them work. I think that's been proven.
Yeah, they basically added JJ Redick with Danny Green.
But you know
a
who's
guy
been very
who
good
just
for the Sixers too? Shake Milton.
he has.
Low key, very good.
He's been very good for them as well when Ben Simmons was hurt. He came in
Yeah.
and provided a very good point guard role for them. And Seth Curry. Seth Curry's been playing actually a good amount of
Seth
points.
Curry's a beast too.
But just looking at the standings, I mean, the top three doesn't surprise anyone with Philadelphia, Nets, and Bucks in the East. But then this is where you hit
This is
the
where it gets
cluster.
weird. The Knicks.
Yeah, and remember, we're doing this on March 1st. So March 1st is everybody's played like, 35 games, 34 games, around there. So we're just looking at this, and Josh brought this up to me this morning when set the standings over. I'm looking at it, I'm like, damn, like the New York Knicks are in fourth place. Now I
will
know
say
it's
this
early.
too in defense of the Celtics. Their division is very competitive this year. Every team's in the playoffs as of right now. Raptors, Knicks, Nets, Celtics, and Sixers. Yep. We're all playoff teams apparently.
And that's the crazy part. Like, just looking at it, me and Josh, if we can maybe find our old papers, a couple months ago we did NBA standings projections like we do every year.
We do this every year.
I don't remember if Josh did it, but I picked the Hawks to be like fifth in the East.
I had them on the bubble.
I was so high in them, and they're awful. They just fired their head coach today because that's how bad they've been. They've lost a bunch in a row. They had a winning record. Like
they brought in Bogdanovich to score 10 points per game, and
they gave him what, $80 million, $70 million
to average 10 points a game and not shoot well.
And that's the crazy part. Me being a Duke
Gallinari
fan,
too.
I swore by Cam Reddish. I swore that Duke team, that Cam Reddish was the outsider guy. And now he's went to the NBA and he hasn't done anything. He hasn't given the Hawks like that third guy. Now what I do like about the Hawks.
Well, they are missing Hunter right now too, who's a big key of their.
What I do like about the Hawks is that the acquisition last year of Clint Capella. I think nobody has talked about that trade, that they fleeced the Rockets out of him.
They did, absolutely.
For super cheap. And he's dominating. He put him like 15 and 15 a game. But
beast. Is it translating to wins though?
It doesn't surprise me that the Magic stink this year. It doesn't surprise me that the Cavaliers have shown a couple players on that team, like Garland and Sexton, have been pretty good.
Right.
Who else? They just got Jared Allen, so he's a nice future center for them.
Well, now they're resting Drummond too. He's been.
They're gonna trade him. They'll get something for him.
Yeah.
The crazy part is
He's not
we
the highest,
were
but
talking about Gordon Hayward a couple minutes ago, saying he left for the money. Money talks, but right now the Hornets have the 8th seed.
that's right.
So right now they're half a game behind the Celtics. And that's the crazy part because he went for money.
Yeah, they're 17 and 18, right now.
They're 16 and 17.
What are they? 15 and 17?
16 and 17.
Oh, 16 and 17.
Yep. And now just looking at, we're just to go back to we didn't finish. So the top 3 seeds doesn't surprise either of us. Like I said, with the Bucks, Nets, and 76ers, those top 3 teams are going to battle it out in the East at the end of the year. The Knicks, them being 4th is surprising, very surprising. But we're looking
for the first show though, I'm going to make my prediction for who's going to make the finals out of those 3. I'm going to go with the Nets. I just think like that team fully healthy. If fully healthy, it's kind of tough to beat.
It's talent wins. At the end of the day, talent wins. They have a
they
head
can finish
coach
3rd or 4th place in the standings and still make it to the finals.
Yeah. Steve Nash is also like a perfect coach over there because he's basically dealing with 3 guards. You can say Kevin Durant.
Steve Nash.
You can say Kevin Durant's a center, but he's not. You could say Kevin Durant's a small forward. He's not. He's a guard in a big body. James Harden, same thing. He's a point guard. He's a point guard at heart. Kyrie Irving's a point guard at heart.
No, Kyrie's a shooting guard at heart.
You have just saying like
fair score. Well, guard terms are just different now. There's no such thing as like a. Well, I mean there is, but point guards and shooting guards roles are so like.
It's combo. It's like a combo.
Yeah, combo guards.
But what I was saying is like he's got the perfect coach over there because Steve Nash is a guard. Steve Nash knows how to get these guys open. He ran that perfect offense with the Suns back when he played with the Amari Stoudemire stuff.
You could say like D'Antoni and Steve Nash coaching together. You wouldn't even have to look at the roster, and that team's going to be playing fast.
Exactly. Actually, it's funny you say that. I almost forgot that they signed D'Antoni. He's like the coach, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
What was I
and with
say?
James Harden, man, that's a fast team.
But the thing that I agree with you, I do think the Nets are going to go to the finals. But what people are, I know that they traded a lot to get Harden. Obviously, they traded a lot of big assets. But the one person I'm happy they kept, and I think the league is not talking about enough, is Joe Harris.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Joe Harris, granted,
50% from 3, right?
Yeah, he's getting so many open looks now because he's playing with 3 studs. But he was doing this before. He was doing this when it was Spencer Dinwiddie and Karis LeVert and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
He was doing this. Nobody still talked about him. He's not a complete
player.
But
50% from 3.
Joe Harris is a machine, and that's what's going to make them go. They have so many good shooters in that team. It's unbelievable. And Bruce Brown. Nobody's talking about Bruce Brown either. He's given them major minutes recently, and he's been playing well. His career high the other day, 30.
That's crazy. And I'm not going to lie. When I watched the kid play in Detroit, I kind of thought he was a bum.
Yeah. Hey, sometimes it's all about...
Not a bum, but you know what I mean. He still can't shoot. I mean, I don't watch a lot of Nets games, but like the ones I do when he's playing, it just looks like he bricks every shot he takes. But he's a good slasher.
But we're going to switch up now. We just talked about the Eastern Conference a good amount. Now I want you to talk about the Western Conference because there's one team that you always swore by. I know you've always liked your Jazz, and he's wearing the jersey right now. And they're 27-7.
I mean, they kind of blew it today, speaking of them, but they could still pull out.
Hey,
they were down by 4 right now. Just for everybody who's watching, there's 1:18 left, counting down. Scores 125, 121. Pelicans are up by 4.
But we'll let Josh
let's
talk
get into
about
the Jazz.
See, Josh more about them than me.
I want to say, like, I don't live by this philosophy, but I love it. If you can keep the same team, you keep the chemistry going, you have the guys who work, you got guys who like each other and want to play together and see each other succeed. I feel like you don't really need to make crazy like you don't have to give the team wildly or do much in the offseason. You just got to keep throwing that. And that's what the Jazz are doing.
Yeah.
They did acquire Jordan Clarkson, last year at the trade deadline or whenever they got him. And he's been huge for them. He's been the difference maker, in my opinion. And that's what boosted them to do well.
The one guy now, I don't watch a lot of Jazz games. I know Josh will know this more than me, but I think the one guy that bonds them together is Joe Ingles. Because he's one of those guys.
Absolutely.
You look at a box score for him, one game he's got 20, but then the next game he's got 5 points. But you look, he's got 8 rebounds and 7 assists.
Yeah, that
He's
guy
like
hustles.
he finds a way to provide for that team. And I think this is the one year where Rudy Gobert is finally getting a little bit better of a.
He's getting like the ball more on offense, at least like more out.
Exactly. That's I was trying to think of the word.
Yeah,
he's finally becoming like the center that he deserves the max deal.
absolutely.
Because before you used to just say, "Oh, he's Clint Capella," because with probably a little bit better defense, because he was a guy that just jumped, got his alley oops and stuff, and
yeah. Besides defense, he wasn't doing anything elite.
Yeah, he wasn't doing anything special. But this year specifically, I mean, against the one game against the Celtics, he was catching in the post. He was tossing hook shots. He was tossing up and unders. He was getting to the free throw line. He was being aggressive, and I think that's what's been the biggest difference for this team. I mean, Donovan Mitchell hasn't changed. Mike Conley has taken a big step this year.
I gotta say this too. I think they would have beat the Nuggets in the playoffs last year if Bojan Bogdanovic didn't get hurt and have to get that surgery. I bet you they would have beat the Nuggets and possibly gone on to the conference finals.
Yeah. And then
that was a good matchup last year. That was fun to watch.
Looking at the rest of the West, I mean, and none of these teams surprise you for being in there. I mean, you got the Lakers second, Clippers third, Suns.
I will say this though, Lakers, they look pretty bad without AD right now.
Yeah, the one surprising team in the West, I would say, is the Spurs, because nobody ever looks at the Spurs anymore as like that elite team. Nobody really looks at them as anything special.
If you really dig into their roster, though, it really
they get a nice roster.
Surprised.
They got good vets and a good point guard.
Yeah, I liked Keldon Johnson a lot at Kentucky. I thought he could have been a lottery pick. I don't know how he slipped like he did.
Yeah,
they for them.
Just looking at their
Ronnie
team
Walker,
right now,
he's been big. Derek White, I know he's hurt right now, right? I want to say he's hurt.
I think so, yes. Just to pull up their stats quick.
He's another good player.
So just looking at this team, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys getting 11 points per game or more. So they're the true definition of
movement,
spreading the basketball.
Yeah.
Like Greg Popovich has realized that this team is not star-studded. It's good role player studded with 2 good veterans and a good point guard. Like DeJounte Murray is probably
3 good veterans: Rudy Gay, DeMar, and LaMarcus Aldridge.
Yeah, I would say.
And Patty Mills, another one.
The only thing with Rudy Gay is you could tell his age has kind of affected how he used to play. I look at DeMar DeRozan.
He's accepted his role, though.
Yeah, DeMar DeRozan hasn't slowed down. I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge, you could say, has slowed down, obviously statistically, but he's still doing the same thing. He's shooting his threes, he's getting his post-ups. But look at DeJounte Murray. I don't think anybody talks about the fact that he's putting up 16, 7, and 5 a game this year. He's getting a steal a game.
I don't know about elite defense, but pretty darn good defense.
Yeah, but I think nobody's talking about him in like as the point guard role, where he's nice. He's putting up his points, and I mean DeMar DeRozan, he's not putting up Toronto Raptors numbers where he's putting up 26, 27 a game, but he's getting 7 assists a game now. He's become their secondary playmaker on this team.
Yeah, if you watch the games, he actually he legitimately does look to pass and get guys involved.
And then they
loves his mid ranges though, which I don't.
Yeah, they got a couple. Who was it? Who was the guy I wanted to talk about? Oh, Lonnie Walker. Yeah, Lonnie Walker this year has not broken out, but you knew he was going to be good. He had injury issues last year, but he was the kid from Miami, correct?
Right.
He went to Miami. Yes. So
one and done. Didn't do much there. I mean, obviously, he can't really accomplish much as a one and done, but.
And then you were talking about Keldon Johnson, 15 points per game, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal a game. He's having a great game. He's having a great year.
Yeah, for a late first rounder.
That's probably the one surprising team, but at the same time, it's like Greg Popovich-led teams are always right there. Like
they always are. They got, they're kind of good too because they got a nice mix of veterans and young guys. I mean, it's a difficult decision for them to decide what they do. Like going forward, you trade off the old guys, and just cash in on your young talent. Maybe take a step back for a few years, get a few more draft picks, and then go from there. Or I don't know. They have options though. Luckily, it's just a weird mix, but.
Yeah, and then obviously looking at it, it doesn't surprise me one bit that the Timberwolves are 7-28. It doesn't surprise me that the Rockets,
especially because Cat's not been playing, they have nothing.
Yeah, I say the one thing in the West, like I said, is the Spurs are in the 5 spot right now, and but the another team, I guess that was written off, which was weird because I never wrote them off, but everybody has an obsession with Curry. Either you love him or you hate him because
You know
everybody
how I
thinks he's the
feel, so
villain
I
guy.
wasn't writing them off. I had them as a
No,
playoff team.
I know we weren't, but
I knew they'd struggle, and fight for a playoff spot,
yeah,
but
them hanging on to the 8 seed and showing that they can like Curry could still do it with. I wouldn't say it's a depleted roster. He's
Draymond's
got
been playing much better though this year compared
yeah,
to last
he's
year.
got the number 2 pick
He
as
looks
the
like he's in
center.
better shape too.
Yeah, he still got Oubre, who's a nice forward. He's got Draymond, who still runs that team.
James Wiseman though, he hasn't been playing much lately.
No, he got hurt.
Yeah, he's been hurt.
So they're
He's
in the
been
8
getting
spot right now. That's
the nod.
close though, because they're 1 game out of the 5 spot. So that's a big cluster right there. But the one team I would say in the West that can, well, the 2 teams I would say that could do better. I think the Mavericks need to make a move, and I think the Pelicans need to make a move, and that's gonna be our next topic, our last topic, trade predictions.
I just want to say something quick about the Suns. The CP3 effect, man. It's real.
CP3 is
That's
the
all we
most
have to say.
disrespected
That's all we
player.
have to say about them. I mean,
He's
acquiring Jay Crowder was nice, and some other guys, and Michael Bridges stepping up a little, and Cam Johnson as well has been huge for them. But the CP3 effect is real, and it's funny too because a lot of people got mad that Chris Paul was an All-Star over Devin Booker.
Yeah.
But I just find that like, how can you not? I mean, the man went there and he made them a playoff team, top 4 seed. You got to give him the nod. It's like owed to him.
And that's the crazy part because I remember when they traded, what was it? Maybe 2 years ago they had who was the European point guard? Oh, Rubio.
Oh yeah.
And
last year, right? They had him.
Yeah, I don't
I
think
can't remember everything.
I mean, I didn't think he was going to come in and like fix them, but I thought like, okay, this is like the first year that Devin Booker and Ayton are going to get an actual point guard, and it won't allow Devin Booker to become the shooting guard that he wants to be at and be more comfortable, and allows Ayton to have a little bit less on his plate and be set up a little better. Because I mean, he's a center that doesn't really step out and shoot. He'll have his times. I think he shoots like 1-3 a game, just to keep him honest. But he's an inside center, and I think when you have inside guys, inside power forward center, I think you need a point guard that has the ability to bring the best out of you. And I think now that Ayton's having, I think, his best field goal percentage here, and Devin Booker is still doing Devin Booker things. He's always been an elite point guard, shooting guard. So, and like you were saying, you mentioned it right in the nose. I think Michael Bridges has been the biggest thing other than CP3. He's come in and become an actual third option for this team. He's been a very good shooter this year. Him and Cam Johnson have stepped up so much for at least a 3-pointer.
It's nice to see those guys grow.
Like I'm looking at it now, DeAndre Ayton's shooting 60%. I know he's a big center; he's like 7'2", but 60% is a very high rate. Some centers don't shoot a great percentage like that who get the volume he does for field goal attempts.
Yeah, most don't.
I mean, Ayton's putting up 15 and 12 a game. He's also
he's not a good 3-point shooter, but like I've seen him, like he's got a decent touch. So you could hope later in his career, sooner rather than later, but he can develop a decent 3-pointer.
And this was like you were saying,
he can definitely shoot the mid range too. He's got
Michael Bridges, 14 points per game, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block and 1 steal a game too. He's getting his thing. Jake Crowder, 10 points per game, like you were saying. Good acquisition.
Yeah, obviously we're from Rhode Island, so we watch Big East basketball a lot, and we all knew that Michael Bridges would be a solid 2-way.
Yeah, Villanova, man. Villanova just produces good role players or good players.
Always.
They don't do nothing. Also, Frank Kaminsky has kind of revived his career a little bit. He's not playing much, but still, he's giving him 7 and 4 off the bench on good 3-point shooting.
Yeah, besides Sarge, he's been their best backup big.
So that's another team in the West that could go into our next topic. That's the one team in the West I think if they can go out and get a nice piece, just a piece to round out the rotation. I don't know who it would be. I don't know who they're connected to. I don't watch the Suns like that.
Yeah, it's tough to say.
I would think a guy.
I don't have answers for the Suns organization regarding that.
No.
To get them to a championship.
I think if I were to make one prediction, on a trade is I think Andre Drummond is, unfortunately, I'm going to say this unfortunately, I think he's eventually not going to get traded. I think he's going to get bought out. And I think he's going to go to the Nets or the Lakers.
Yeah, imagine going to the Nets.
I hate that I said that, but let's be real, it happens.
Oh, it does all the time.
And the Lakers' excuse will be, oh, Anthony Davis got hurt, so let's go add Andre Drummond while Anthony Davis comes back, and then we have both. So I think eventually he's going to get bought out and go to one of those teams. That's my one prediction. And if I were to pick a second one, if I were to pick a Celtics one, I don't even think they get anyone special, to be quite honest with you.
Blake Griffin.
I think if they look at some of these teams who get bought out, I mean, you could look at the Kings and look for Harrison Barnes. He makes a little bit of money, so you're going to have to finagle a deal there. But
I love that acquisition. I can't. Why can't I say that word tonight? This is the first podcast, everyone. So don't judge me.
Yeah,
Sometimes I can't pronounce words.
This is the warm up. We're going to talk about so many.
This is the pilot, man.
This is the first thing we're fully comfortable with rambling on.
Yeah.
We want you guys to ask us questions, obviously, at the end of each podcast.
Please criticize us. We do not take it personal. And
exactly. We want you to do this. We're gonna get a better setup next month, obviously.
Yep.
As well.
Yeah, this is us raw as hell.
Yeah. Another team that I would say that has trade candidates on it is, I would say, the Timberwolves, because they're god awful. And to be realistic,
though, like if they get the first pick again,
yeah, to be realistic,
you got all this young talent, but like you can't get it to work.
Dude,
I mean, their only hope is selling the team, getting new owners.
They're looking at the top three. I mean, Malik Beasley's kind of like, in jail or something, or on house arrest. So he's suspended. I don't know how that's going to go down on the team.
Man, he's a character too.
He's a stud. He's a good player, but he's one of the guys where I don't know. I mean, Caldwell Pope did it a year ago or 2 years ago, and he's okay now. So I don't know. D'Angelo Russell, I mean, obviously he's still there. Anthony Edwards is having a good rookie year, so you're keeping those two. Obviously, you're keeping Karl Anthony Towns.
Culver sucks, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say
also.
I was gonna say Naz Reid or Jarrett Culver are gonna be
unsigned rookie free agent.
Yeah, those two are going to be big trade candidates, I think. I mean, if we're going to go based off the record right now, those are two guys that, let's be real, the Timberwolves need Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham is a guy.
That would be a good fit. That kid's elite.
He's a great fit for that team because he could shoot the ball, he could play point guard, and allows D'Angelo Russell, Karl Anthony Towns, and Anthony Edwards to be scorers like they are. It'd be a great fit. But so that means that you need to cut a guy, and Culver never fit there. He's a guy that could go revive his career somewhere else.
Right.
And he's a forward who can shoot the ball. He showed he could do it in college. It just didn't translate. He never got the minutes and time to.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever an elite shooter, but I mean, he always did it on a high volume, Culver. But his defense was very elite at Texas Tech. So, I mean, hopefully he can revive his career.
Do you have a trade prediction you would like to end off on?
Oof.
It could be random. It doesn't have anything to do. This is your straight up prediction. Pick a Warriors one. You like the Warrior. You like to watch the Warriors. What can the Warriors do? I'll ask you a question. What can the Warriors do that can help them? They're going to be fighting for a playoff spot this year, and I do think they're going to make it. So who do you think they could go out and get that has a hole on their team right now? Is it like a backup point guard, shooting guard?
Oubre is supposed to get traded before the deadline, so I don't know what they plan on doing with that. They gave up on D'Angelo Russell pretty quickly, obviously, and brought in Wiggins. So maybe they want to, I don't know how they feel about Wiggins. Is he short term, long term? He's been better on defense, which I like, but I'd like to see a little more offensive consistency from him.
Yeah. Do you think a Harrison Barnes reunion is coming in?
Oh, I don't know.
Do you think a trade like that would work? Because Kelly Oubre could become, that could give him a California market.
Right.
And he could boost his value for next year, because I think he's on the last year of his contract. I might be wrong.
Right, yeah.
He could put himself in a position if the Kings, he goes out and gets 20 a game for them, he can go get $80 million next year. But Harrison Barnes, I mean, that seems like a good guy that could go over there. He could play multiple positions. He could shoot the ball. That could give him a tall team.
Yeah.
Because you would roll with but you
Harrison
got
Barnes, he's got an interesting skill set. Back I think like 10 years ago, if he were to play, even probably a little more now, like 15, he probably would have been an all-star in that
yeah,
NBA. But he's just not elite at anything to be an all-star now. But he is a good player, and he could
yeah.
make it for any team, in my opinion.
He's like that fringe guy. You never
Yeah,
really consider him all star, but he's gonna
right.
put up numbers for a playoff team that's good, or he's gonna be on a team that's bad like the Kings and go get you 19, 5-4 a game and be in consideration and give you a traded candidate somewhere.
Yeah. But
But
back to the Pelicans, though, I just don't have anything for trades right now. I got to think about that more, to be honest.
yeah,
But back to the Pelicans, what do you think they can do to make the playoffs? Because they're 14-19. They just won, so actually they're 15-19.
yeah.
Four
Um,
games under 500.
well, just to look at their team, I think that for one, Van Gundy was an awful acquisition, a head coach. I don't think Van Gundy is a coach that drove their best big man out of town in Orlando and never did good after that. And
Right.
then got to the point where he had to be a commentator. So I think he's doing what he did to Dwight Howard to Zion. He's not going to bring out he brought out the best potential and then ruined him. And I
Oh,
think
I mean,
like
that was kind of on Dwight, too, though. Dwight didn't want
it
to.
was, it was. And as Zion's more humble and stuff like that, I
Yeah, he
understand. But
is.
I don't want to see that happen to the Pelicans. I think it starts with the coach. I think if anything, it's gonna be like the Hawks. You have to have a short leash with the guy. You're supposed to come into this year and be good. I
Right.
know you traded away some guys. You lost a couple people, but you still got Ingram. You still got Zion. Lonzo's having a good year. Bledsoe still, he's overpaid, but he's still doing something. Adams is here doing what Steven Adams does.
Yeah, he's a good center.
So you have a team, but you have no depth. Your bench is very young because you have Alexander Walker. He's
He's
playing
been
well,
having a
but
good year, right?
yeah, he's
Like
young
averaging
though.
like around
It's
like
tough.
11 points per game, I want to say.
It's similar to the Celtics when you have to rely on so many young guys like Pritchard and Nesmith over there. It's tough with over here. Same thing. You have two studs and an underperforming point guard.
Oh, no, I
You know,
lied. Nikhil Alexander-Walker's averaging 8 points per game. Still not
yeah.
bad for a second-year player.
I think this is a team that needs to go full blown young for one more year.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So
One more
the
draft pick.
Pelicans could be a team that trades off a guy like Eric Bledsoe and
Right.
J. Redick to a playoff team. Like I know the Clippers were
It's probably
looking
their
for.
best bet.
Yeah, I know the Clippers were looking at point guards again. They could be a team that's in play for Eric Bledsoe. He was familiar with the team. Obviously, they're
Yeah, he used to be
in
Chris
the
Paul's backup.
organization. JJ Redick, a bunch of playoff teams would use him in his role just to come in and shoot the ball. He might be a guy that goes back to Philadelphia and gives them a depth piece again. So that's something to look at because I like Kyra Lewis Jr. I would love to see him get some more minutes because he's a
Yeah, he
pure
was a beast
scorer.
at Alabama.
He's a pure scorer. He's a good point guard. And Jackson Hayes too. I mean,
Yeah, he was
it's
doing
just
pretty good last year. I'm surprised they're not using him more.
yeah. So the Pelicans are a very weird team. They
They
have a
are.
good
They're
roster.
another team in a weird situation.
They're not deep, but they have a good roster. They have a bunch of guys who put up stats. It's just not. It's not a good, well coached team. I don't like Stan Van Gundy at all. That's a team that might need to go the Celtics route and find a coach like someone out of college, someone who's
Yeah,
ready to go from
I agree
college
with
to the
that.
NBA, like a fresh face. Because
Are there any coaches that are like poised for a NBA career?
that I'm not sure of. I mean,
Like
if you
any
look
names
back,
they've heard being thrown around?
if we look back at the Celtics when they hired Brad Stevens, I know that they interviewed him, but nobody ever thought he was going to get the job.
Yeah, no, it felt like too when they brought back when they traded KG and Pierce away that they already had Brad Stevens like pre-planned. Like
Yeah,
had everything very calculated out on what they were going to do.
exactly. So I think the Pelicans could put themselves in a situation like that. But just to end off, What's your final prediction? I know you said you wanted the Nets to go out East, but what's your prediction now? Because it's basically mid-season.
Nets and Lakers.
It's a shortened season, so this is midway.
Yeah, I just don't see anyone beating the Lakers in the playoffs. LeBron does LeBron things, gets his way, kind of. Not that I'm saying that he doesn't earn his way to the finals. I just feel like the NBA gives him a push. They
Yeah,
push for LeBron and his teams.
yeah. I would say, and I'm gonna hate myself for saying this, but I do think this is the year that the 76ers go to the finals.
Honestly, as much
It's
as
gonna it's gonna
with the
depend on
rivalry
one
with the
thing though.
Celtics, I wouldn't even mind watching that.
It's gonna depend on one thing, because so far this year, the two big differences have been the coach and the shooting that they've brought in, and Seth Curry and Danny Green.
Yeah, they solved their two problems from the previous season, coaching and
Ben Simmons is still doing his thing, and Embiid has gotten better again this year. He's scoring an insane amount of points.
Looks like he wants to play again.
But the one guy that has just turned up in a way that's been good is Tobias Harris.
Yeah,
I know we were talking about Shake Milton, and I know Tyrese Maxey wasn't mentioned either. He's been a great pick for them.
Yeah, he has been.
But Tobias Harris has actually come in and played equivalent to what his contract was. And they gave him a massive deal, 5 for 180, I think. And he's come in and he's done his thing this year. He's turned out.
You can't complain. 20 points per game on 1% shooting, 40% from three.
And that's a big thing.
That's like, he's on page for the 50-40-90 club. Like, what more could you ask for? 89% from the free throw line.
He's just shooting, man. Like, he's been the big difference, because they've always had
up too, which is good about him.
They've always had point guards or random role players that have come in and shoot, but they've never really had that one good player who's good all around and shoot. You know what I mean? Like, they've always had the JJ Redicks, they've had Shake Milton, Korkmaz, they've always had the role players. Who was the white dude who wore like number 18? He used to play for like the Spurs and Kings. Bellinelli, was that his name?
Marco Bellinelli.
He played there too, right?
Yeah, he did.
That's what I'm saying. Another role player who was
hot and cold in his career.
Exactly. So it's good this year that Tobias Harris has come in, and even Seth Curry, who are more normal rotational players, starters who could shoot, not just role players. I think those guys are actually very important, and nobody's talking about it enough. Doc Rivers is a good coach, and he's miles better than Brett Brown. He's put himself in a great situation.
Right.
I think Philadelphia takes on the Lakers, and I've bet against LeBron my whole life, and he's won a lot.
I will say this too. I think for the East, until the Celtics prove themselves, if the Celtics were playing where I expected them to be playing, I would say like the Sixers, Nets, Bucks, and Celtics are 1A, 1B, 1C, and 1D.
Yeah.
But since the Celtics haven't been playing to their potential, I got to say Nets are 1A, Sixers 1B, and Bucks 1C.
Yeah,
I think either three of those teams making it, but I'd have to pick the Nets. If you're making me pick one, I'm going with the Nets.
Yeah. I think if the Bucks had a little bit of a better center or interior presence, I think they would be the best team in the East. But I can't pick them because
you hate Giannis.
You can't. Teams like the 76ers can kill them because Embiid can score 40 on Brook Lopez any given day. And then the Nets
is a good shot blocker, but yeah, he's not.
He's not a good defender though.
Yeah, no. He's not bad, but
same thing with the Nets. They have so many. They have three studs, three of the top 15 NBA players right now on one team. It's so hard. You can't play. You can't be an interior presence against them because they all kill you off the dribble or shooting.
Yeah.
And then you can't leave Joe Harris open if you switch on to him on accident. Can't leave him.
No, you can't.
Even Jeff Green. Jeff Green's been a random really good role player for some reason. So
Shamit's a pretty good shooter too.
Yeah, I would pick Philadelphia over the Lakers this year right now. That's my midway.
But you think the Sixers are going to win it all?
Yeah.
Oh, that's your overall winner? Wow.
And you know me.
I'm still going with the Lakers.
I'm not going to say names, but I know specific people who know me. I hate Philadelphia. I really do.
Yeah, he hates
Can't stand them, but they're so good this year. They've beat the Celtics 3 times, I think, already. I just can't.
We always struggle with them.
There's not enough good to say about. I mean, I would love to see the Jazz get there, but until they prove that they can continue
Yeah,
this regular season
I
success
agree.
into the postseason, it's tough to pick them
I think
over
we'd
the
love to
Lakers.
see a team that's not in Texas or California and make it out of
Yeah,
the make it out of the West of the NBA Finals. Because what is
yeah,
it like for the last like 10 years? It's been probably longer actually. I don't know the exact
yeah,
years, but it's been a while for teams either from Texas or California making it
yeah.
out of the West.
We
Like, come
almost
on,
got a
give us
Nuggets
Utah or
Celtics
something.
last
Give
year.
us Utah. Give us Denver. We don't care. We're just sick of these California and Texas teams.
Yeah, we almost got a Celtics Nuggets one last year.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
Even Miami, even both teams, Miami and Boston last year, those weren't the top two picks to probably be in Eastern Conference Finals.
No, Miami just played harder than everyone else, though.
Miami had a great run.
They
They
did.
had a great run. There's
It was
nothing more
nice
you
to
could
see.
say.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. And they gave the Lakers a run too. The Lakers were just a better team in
Yeah,
the
it took them
end.
to 6 games, right?
Yeah. More talent. Just what it was. But yeah, I think that's what we're gonna do for this week. Next week isn't decided yet. We're most likely the next couple weeks. I think me and Josh and whoever else wants to join us is we're gonna head on college basketball. A lot of conference tournaments are starting soon. March Madness brackets are obviously coming out in a couple
Yeah.
weeks, so we're obviously going to fill up brackets and show you guys what we got. Maybe we'll even start a big thing with the viewers if you want. If people want to make a big one, we can.
Yeah, and plus, if you know me and Aaron, you know we love college basketball just as much as we love the
Yeah,
NBA.
college basketball. This was like a 50. I think this is gonna be 50+ minutes. This NBA. I think we're gonna hit an hour easily in college basketball. There's so many
Yeah.
teams that me and Josh can talk about. And soon we're gonna talk about everything. Baseball starting soon too. You might just see me on that.
Yeah, I don't know enough about baseball.
Yeah. So and then football, I'll hit on a couple other people I have. We'll hit on that too. But it's off season. We're gonna let that roll for a little bit. Free agency hasn't even started yet. So hockey, we have hockey. We can hit on. I can hit on that at least. Maybe
I don't know hockey. My specialties is just NBA and college basketball,
Yeah.
and a little bit of college football and NFL.
All right. So I think we're gonna sign out there.
Yeah,
This is
hope
the
you all
first
enjoyed
one.
it. Hope you all keep listening.
Yep. Pretty soon
We're gonna keep putting out
set up.
content.
Yeah, we're gonna get a setup soon. We're gonna get some new stuff, microphones, all that.
Yeah.
We're gonna make a YouTube channel as well too. We're gonna keep going on this. This is just for fun.
Yeah, and
But
if
we're
you
gonna
like
try and
what we're
build a new.
saying, let us know, and we'll keep it up. Because if we're
Yeah.
doing this for like a year and we're not getting any positive feedback, and we have like 5 fans, sorry, you didn't make it clear enough. Nah, I don't know. Who knows what the future holds, but we're
But
very
yeah.
ambitious. So,
All right. We're gonna sign out.
all
This
right.
is Little Rhody Sports Talk.
See you all
Peace
next
out.
time.
See ya.